Welcome to the Brimstone Coaching Podcast. My name is Kurt Bush. I am a coach and co-founder here at Brimstone Coaching Group. I'm joined on this podcast by my friend and partner, Chris Godfredson. Hey, Chris,
Hey Kurt, how are you?
welcome in.
Thanks. I'm glad to be here today.
Yeah, yeah, same. We're gonna talk about some stuff today, some really fun, easy stuff, right?
Yeah, of course. That's what we
Yeah,
always do.
that's what we always do. So I would say this before we get going today. If
Mhm.
you listener have not heard the episode right before this, I want to welcome you to go back and check it out because we're going to reference that a little bit. And here's how we're going to reference it. We are talking this first quarter of the year about this idea that being a leader of whatever we lead, which we believe everybody leads something. Being a leader involves this invitation to invest in one's own growth, so that our leadership might continue to grow, our self-awareness might continue to grow, that we might enter into the spaces we lead and live and work and play more whole, more self-aware.
Yeah.
And we talked last episode about this transformational equation that we love. It's E plus R equals T. Chris, what does E plus R equals T mean?
E plus R equals T is an acronym for encounter plus reflection equals transformation. And what we have found, I think our lived experience has told us, and what the people that we work with help us understand is like we are hurtling through space. We're white knuckling it all the way through all the things all day, every day, and we don't take any time to stop and reflect on
Yeah,
any of the encounters that we have. And that's
yeah,
why we're devoid of transformation. So the
yeah,
equation is simply it's an invitation to slow down, to think, to put into place some intentional practices of reflection on the encounters that we've had throughout the course of our day
yeah,
so that we might experience a little bit of transformation. So we don't have to white knuckle it or keep on doing the things that we do when we do the
yeah.
things we do.
Yeah, I'm really struck by the words you just said. You just said slow down.
Mm.
That feels like both a really welcome invitation from you and also an invitation that's hard. Um,
Yeah. Can I tell you something about that?
please
Like
do.
it's pretty rare that anybody listens to what I say. And so I was in a meeting this morning, and it's a repetitive meeting. So every week at 8:30 in the morning, the same people show up for the same meeting.
Mm,
And last week, this person came into the meeting and almost tripped. And I said,
mm.
"Hey, slow down. It's okay." And so today she came in and did this like slow motion walk. I'm like, "What are you doing?" She said, "I'm slowing down for you." I said, "Well, thanks for listening. Somebody listened."
Some,
Anyway, there, but there's great power
yeah,
in the slowing down, right?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so I think where we want to go today, Chris, is a little bit into this idea of slowing down and what we're doing when we slow. Like slowing down is one thing.
Yeah.
We are not necessarily inviting the slowdown just for the sake of slowing down. Um, Certainly, there are times and places where we slow down and we rest. But I think in the context of slowing down, what we want to say is a really important practice to be able to enter into to work this equation out really well is the practice of self-discovery.
Yeah.
To learn more about who we are and how we be, if you will.
hmm So
Um,
when you think about that, when you think about self-discovery, what are some ways that you have engaged in that process, in that work?
oh man, well, I mean, you asking the hard hitters right away.
I got in before you could ask me. That's
You
what I did there.
did. You did. Well, see, I was going to ask you, how do you know,
Mm.
how do you know when you need to sort of slow down and engage some self-discovery?
Okay,
But
I can do that. I can answer that.
you
And
want to
then you
go
can
there
answer my
first?
question if you remember it. Yeah,
Okay, great.
because I
I
don't. I already won't remember it.
I put
Yeah.
it in the vault.
Um, how do I know, right?
Yeah.
I I, I think that there's times when um I'm more tired than I normally am.
Mm, yeah.
I think that what's true is I work hard and I'm older than I once was, and I'm not as good as I once was. And so like the things I do take a toll over the course of my day. And so I do get home at the end of the day and I'm usually tired. But when I'm beyond tired or when I feel like when I'm at the end of my rope, I can tell.
Mm,
Like I
yeah.
think there's times when I feel violent.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and what I mean by that is it's been a long time since I was physically violent with anybody, but my temper is short.
Yeah.
It's almost kick the dog kind of feeling.
Yeah.
If there's dog lovers out there, I don't kick my dog. I
It's a
don't.
metaphor.
It is a metaphor, but there's something that happens in me where everything is short and my voice gets more stern and everything in me feels like that. That's one of the times when
Yeah.
I know I need to pause and do
Yeah.
a little introspection, a little self-reflection to say, hey, what's actually going on here? Why are you behaving in this way? That's one way.
Yeah. Yeah. There's one way. Well, I mean, I would say just recently I experienced something just like what you said, and I'm really
Mm.
glad that you said it like that. Just recently, I found that there were moments where I was responding to sort of mundane things in elevated ways. Um,
Yeah, that's
right.
really well
So,
said.
yeah. So th things that normally wouldn't cause me to escalate or ramp
Yeah.
up or make my ears get warm with
Mm.
anxiety, right?
Yep.
Um, those things were starting to happen. So that was a trigger for me to say, man, there's something going on here, and I'm not exactly sure what it is or why
Yeah.
it is. Yeah,
Yeah. And you're able to do that
yeah,
today
yeah,
because you have engaged in some of this work and I'm able to do it too because there was enough periods of time in my life where I felt regret and remorse for the way that I was behaving and
yeah,
showing up in places
yeah,
and spaces. And it wasn't just at work, it was at home, it was where I was playing. It was
yeah,
all the spaces I lived and worked and played, and it would just continue to repeat itself. And that's when I finally engaged in some of this work. It was like I'm not satisfied
yeah,
with my life. It's unworkable. My relationships are becoming increasingly strained. And I'm just, I'm not having any fun myself. And I'm absolutely no fun to be around at all.
yeah,
And like that was true for me for a period of time. And thankfully, I was introduced to a lot of the things that we talk about and teach and coach people through. And I had a couple of really wise guides, not wise guys, but wise guides
yeah.
who
Hit that D hard.
use guys or wise. That I had a couple of people who coached me through and helped me really begin to dig in.
Yeah,
It's a small handful of people, I would even say, that coached me and I was in relationship with. We were on a similar journey and they helped me get there, right?
yeah, yeah,
That's not to say that I've discovered everything there is to discover about myself and why I do the things I do, but I am
yeah,
further down the path than I once was,
yeah.
thankfully.
You said two things I want to ask questions about. I'm gonna ask one and try to remember the other. Um,
Okay.
they're easy questions. They're easy questions.
Yeah, I
Um,
know, but you're not answering questions. And that's always, you know,
I
I'm not
introed
sure why I'm
Chris.
bothered by that.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll think about that later.
So here's the first question. You use the words regret and remorse.
Yeah.
Um, I just maybe just for the listener, I
Yep.
just want to give the opportunity just to say like you mean those words. Like you
Oh,
mean
100%.
regret and remorse. Yeah, this is not
Yeah.
hyperbole.
It is not. I would be in places and spaces and I would be triggered. Something would happen and then I was stirred. There was something in me that felt threatened. So we've talked about
Yeah.
this a lot lately where I'm kind of going along and I'm living my life and all of a sudden, boom, I don't feel safe. Something is like, what's going on?
Hmm.
danger, Will Robinson, danger, and there's a problem, and I then I do what I do to try to get back to feeling safe, right?
Yeah.
It's I'm
Yeah.
not safe, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to get back there,
Yeah.
and it didn't really matter what the setting was. If it was at the supper table with my people, if it was in a meeting, if it was in a ball game, and
Yeah.
when you have a mental model that there's no such thing as a good referee, then it would just come out. And
Yeah.
I would leave there and say, boy, I'm not going to do that again. And then the next game I sat at, I did it again. Or the next meeting I was in where I felt that thing and I went from safe to not safe. Now
Yeah.
here I go. And the cycle was repetitive. And the question that I would be asked is, why can't you stop doing that?
Mm.
Why don't you behave differently? And
Yeah.
and the
Mm.
reality is I didn't know because I was having all these encounters and never reflected,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I didn't have the tools. So I was full of regret and remorse, and I would even say shame.
Yeah.
I felt shame a lot, like we would say. Some from some of Brene Brown's teaching, right? Guilt is that I did something bad. Shame is I am bad.
Yeah.
And so I would just have these feelings like of regret and remorse, and I suck. Like I
Yeah.
am
Yeah.
among the least of these in the human race. And um, yeah, it's so disempowering, that
Yeah.
meaning.
Yeah.
And so the work of self-discovery is critical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for saying that. I think I just wanted to make sure that our listeners knew like this is not hyperbole, right?
It's not.
That 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 we can do hyperbole sometimes and metaphor, but this is not
Mhm.
that. Yeah,
Can
thanks
I,
for
can
that.
I, yeah, can I say something about that?
Yeah.
Because I don't know, I don't think it's regret and remorse for you, right? So what would, seriously, I'm not trying to dodge your next question.
Yeah.
It's, how have, would you describe your feelings, those things that led you to self-discovery?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's some form of regret and remorse. I think what stood out or what stands out looking back now is I remember so clearly coming out of out of meetings having not shared or spoken up or contributing
Yeah.
and thinking like I did it again, right? Like why did I
Hmm.
do this again? Um, we've talked about anxiety. One of my anxiety tells is my chin quivers
Hmm.
when I talk, like if I was crying, right? It's that same sort of quiver. So I would sit in meetings years ago, and I would work up the courage to speak. I'm not listening to anything that's going on in the meeting because I'm formulating what I'm going to say so I don't look stupid.
Yeah.
Um, and then I say it, and then I instantly go, "Well, that was stupid," right? And then I
Yeah.
spend the rest of the meeting I'm trying to self-soothe to
Yep.
tell myself it wasn't stupid. And then I
Boy,
leave the
that's really
meeting and
good.
I say like I did it again. I either
Yeah.
didn't say the right thing or I didn't speak or I said too much.
Yeah.
Um, that for me, I mean, that is a form, like I regret that, but
Yeah.
it's a very different form of
Yeah.
regret.
It's different and equally debilitating
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
unhelpful.
Yeah. And I think you would say the same. Like between those instances, I would hope for different.
Yeah.
Like and honestly want different.
A lot different, but
But I had no idea how. I had no idea that there was. I mean, I think at some point there's a resignation of like, well, I guess this is
yep.
just how I'm gonna be.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's how
yeah,
I've always been. It's how
yep,
I've handled things, right? And it happened early. Oh, in order to feel safe, I'm not going to say something, and
yeah,
that will get me back there.
yeah,
Or I'll
yeah,
not pay any attention, and then I'll say something. Oh, that felt stupid to say out loud, and
yeah,
and and
yeah,
then we just stay down there. We can't get back up,
yeah,
or we do what we do, so
yeah,
that we can feel safe. And
yeah.
yeah,
It's just
all of it is
exhausting.
exhausting. Yeah.
Yep, yep, yep. The hoping and wishing and just falling back into it all the time is just it's just exhausting. And
Sir, yes, sir.
it just, I mean, there's just a better way. It
Yeah,
just doesn't have to be that way. Yeah. Um, so can I ask you another question?
you may. Yep.
You said something to the effect of like you've mined some things in self, you've done some work of self-discovery, and there's still so much to go. I mean, there is a lot inside of us to mine out, right? Like
Well,
this is not like I spent a good
depending on how old
afternoon.
you are, I mean, I've been around the sun a few times, right? And so, yeah, I mean, there is a lot.
This
And
isn't like I'm gonna spend a good afternoon and journal some things and then I'm done, right?
right, I mean, it would be great. I've said it ad nauseum. It would be great if this was far enough. Like
Yes.
I've experienced enough transformation where I'm happy, where
Yeah.
I'm satisfied with who and how I am. Now,
Yeah.
I am far more satisfied with the way that I show up in the world and the way I handle stress or anxiety than I once was. But
Yeah.
there's still there are still things that show up or opportunities that present themselves where I'm not exactly the way I would hope to be. And
Yeah.
so that then I get to look at it and we are broken records around here. Do you know what a
Yeah.
record? So there was a time when
Wait,
there was a turntable and you would put this vinyl disc on it. Oh, they're kind of making a comeback, aren't they? Anyway,
Chris,
um, I
I'm
was a
offended. I
broken.
am seriously offended.
uh, uh, anyway, we could be a broken record here, and the broken recordness is this: once we see this stuff, now we can't unsee these things, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, yeah, uh, it's not that it's not that there are a million different protective promises that I made that are, but there are a number of ways that things poke and prod at those
Yeah.
protective promises that I made. So,
Yeah.
I think for John and Jill Public, there's uh, two or three prevailing feelings that we had or meanings that we made as kids that led us to make a promise that leads to the behavior that we don't like in our
Yeah.
adulthood. And so discovering what those primary things are uh, takes some time and energy.
Yeah. Yeah. I I could not agree more.
Did I answer the question? I don't even know.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's I don't know. I find in me most things that I set out to do, I know that there's sort of an end. You
Hmm.
know, like I can achieve the task, and now I'm done with it. And
Yeah.
I think what I'm getting more and more convinced of and clear on is that there are just so many parts of me that I don't yet know. And I
Mm,
think I know way more today. To your point, I think I know way more today about myself and who I am than I did 10 years ago.
yeah.
And I continue to be surprised at how often someone can hold up a mirror to me and I can see
Mm,
something and discover something that I had not previously known.
yeah. You used a word that I just want to probe for a second if I can.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
because I do believe that there are two, three primary protective promises that probably undergird most of
Hmm.
the behavior that drives us to be ways that we don't like to be, where we feel regret or remorse or some iteration thereof.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you said there are parts of me, there are lots of parts of me. And yeah, I'm fascinated by that. And I wonder if, in 20 or 30 minutes or less, or in a couple sentences, what do you want to say about parts of you that are like lead to some of these kinds of behaviors? What would you say about that?
Yeah.
Anything?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think I'm gonna need at least 4 hours. Um,
Okay,
yeah,
that's great.
I mean, I think
We should
there
probably
are
break it up into about five pods. So,
Okay,
Okay.
that's great. That's
Yeah.
great. Yeah, I mean, to your point about protective promises, I think there are protective promises that I have made that have caused parts of me, um, specifically for me specifically, it's a part of me that that you know allows me to feel anger.
Yeah.
Or I'll just say that one. There's a part of me that can be angry that I've said that I learned early on was not acceptable or not safe. So that part of me was exiled, was set aside,
Mm.
was
Yep.
sort of told, you are not helpful,
Mm.
or you are not allowed, if you
Yeah.
will.
Yep.
Um,
It's not
so
okay.
it's not
Uh,
okay. Yeah, yeah.
mhm.
So I continue to find times where someone can hold up a mirror to where I see that part of me that I've told to go away or
Mhm.
to say this isn't okay, where I can start to see the effects of that,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
And then I can start to learn um, the impact that that's had on me over the course of my 40 years on this earth. Um, so the mirror gets held up. I can see that part of me that I've said is not okay. I can start to welcome that part in.
Yes.
But I think the biggest impact is just allowing myself to be aware that telling that part of me you're not okay. I don't want you.
Hmm.
Um, Learning the impact of that is just so important for me. I feel like that's had the biggest impact on me. I'm not sure if that's what you're getting
No,
at.
that is what I'm getting at. Like we 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 have some level of understanding of what Richard Schwartz identified when he came up with the internal family systems theory.
Yeah.
And that's what you're largely what
Yeah.
you're talking about is I
Yep.
think one of the things that's true for human beings is we feel so much shame around the ways in which we behave. And so we want to get rid of these pieces or these
Yeah.
parts of ourselves that lead
Yeah.
us to do the things we don't want to do. And the reality in what Schwartz would say with IFS stuff is that there are no bad parts.
Yep.
They're just parts who are overworking and doing things that are less helpful. Like when our truer self is the one who is regulating the system, that's that then enables us to behave and show up in ways we want to,
Yeah.
and uh, and it's really good work.
Yeah.
And so that's
Yeah.
why I love how you brought the parts into it, and like the parts that are alive in me that try to protect me from feeling the things I feel, they're not right. They're not bad. They're not
Yeah.
even necessarily wrong. They're just doing things that are less helpful than they once were. And so if
Yeah.
that's true, then I can go to those exiled parts of me that feel like I will not be controlled, uh, that kind of stuff from my protective promises. Uh,
Yeah.
I can tell that, you know what, it's okay. We're okay, and I don't have
Yeah.
to behave that way. This is where
Yeah.
my more purposeful promise to myself is when that thing is poked, I can say it's okay, and I'm okay,
Yeah.
and have it be true.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
have to I don't have to feel full of shame, regret, and remorse. I can get into spaces that are far more representative of how I want to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's really good. I mean, I think you just illustrated just the depth
Mm,
of mining that we have the chance to do.
yeah,
Um, yeah. I think
well,
maybe
that's pretty cool.
that's maybe what I want to say. Maybe we take a little break, and then we come right back and keep going a little bit. Hi, my name is Kurt Busch, and I'm from the Brimstone Coaching Group. Let me ask you a question. Do you often feel overwhelmed by anxiety and stress? If so, know that you are not alone. And I want you to know that we are here to help you. Our free guide called How to Manage Your Anxiety offers practical advice and will give you actionable strategies to help you manage your anxiety and start living a more balanced life even today. At Brimstone Coaching Group, we understand how chronic anxiety can keep you stuck and how it can keep you feeling exhausted. And we understand because we've been there. And our free guide will help you identify the root causes of your anxiety and will give you tools to begin to create lasting change in your life. Imagine with me a version of your life where you can finally begin to feel things like contentment, fulfillment, and wholeness. So don't wait. Visit brimstonecoachinggroup.com right now to download your free guide. I want to invite you to start your journey towards a calmer, more fulfilled you right now, today. Once again, you can find this free guide at brimstonecoachinggroup.com.
Hey, welcome back to the Brimstone Coaching Podcast. Chris Godfredson here with my friend and co-founder, Kurt Busch. And before the break, well, like a long time before the break,
Yeah.
Kurt skirted a question.
I knew it. I knew it. Yep.
And the question that I asked at the beginning, which was out of place, it was out of pocket question at the time, but here we go. The question is, how have you engaged this work?
Yeah.
What has it looked like for you?
Yeah. So the very first bit of self-discovery I ever did, I don't know, it was probably nearly a decade ago at this point.
Mhm.
I don't know, 8 or 10 years ago,
Mhm.
probably 8 years ago. I was part of a process with you, and some of the homework in this process of emotional maturity and growing emotional maturity. Um, One of the pieces of homework was ask someone that you know and trust to to tell you something that you might not know about yourself.
Yeah.
Um,
Isn't that fun?
well, fun is a word.
It
Uh,
is. Yeah.
I'm not sure that
Mm,
I would have attached it
that's
then.
okay. Yeah. So what was that
Um,
experience like?
it was very hard.
Hmm.
Um, so here's one that you know this about me, the listener might not. My go-to when I ask someone for feedback, if they tell me something negative, I'm like, "Yep, absolutely, I agree with you. You're right." If you tell me something positive, I'm gonna say,
Mm,
"Absolutely, you're wrong." Right?
mm,
Um, so so I went into that process like I did know that about myself. I didn't know why, but I
mhm.
did know that I am not going to take a positive piece of feedback from anybody. So I went into that process with a very close friend of mine. These are things that happen in safe relationship,
Sure.
like
Yeah, of course.
honest, safe relationships.
If you're smart when you do it, you don't just ask every Tom, Dick, and Harry
Right,
I mean, yeah, don't
right,
ask these questions recklessly. Anyway,
right.
pro
So
tip.
this person actually said something that was quote positive and one thing that was quote negative. I mean, I
Mhm.
hate to assign a positive negative, but
Yeah. Well,
one that I would have received as positive, one I would have received as negative. Um, and it was really eye-opening because I really didn't know them. Um, I think I went into that conversation feeling like of course, I know everything there is to know about me.
yeah, right.
Uh,
Good one.
yeah, that was not true. And I just remember being really surprised that
Mm,
I didn't know either of them.
hmm.
I mean, I affirmed them. I think once they were held up to me,
Yeah.
I affirmed them and
Hmm.
said, "Oh, that's a great point," or "Thank you for saying that." But I would not have named them in myself.
Mm,
Um, yeah, so that was the very first thing. But I think, I mean, you said wise guides. I'm gonna do a hard D
mhm.
there.
Yeah, yeah.
Wise guides. Uh, I've had a number of those people that truly just hold a mirror up and ask good questions at the right
Yeah.
time.
Mm,
Um, these were not guides that say, "Here's what you need to do when you
yeah.
are doing this or doing this." These were guides that ask questions about how I showed up in situations. Um,
Isn't that what you mean when you talk about holding up the mirror?
yes, that is
Yeah,
exactly right. Yep. Um, I've told this story so many times before, but I'm going to do it again in case there's a new listener. Chris,
sweet.
you were one of these wise guides for
Mhm.
me early on. You still are. I didn't mean to say it like that. Still
Didn't
are.
take it that way.
Just want to clarify. Somebody's going to listen and catch
That'd be
that.
great. Yeah.
Um, I used to call you at the beginning of this work for me. I used to call you and like complain and vent about people that I was leading. And you would listen really well. And then at the end, you'd say, okay, well, what's your contribution in creating and keeping the system in its status quo? And I'd always like internally, I'm like, shut up.
Yeah.
Didn't you hear?
Terrible.
I just told you how everybody sucks. But I would never say it. Like we weren't at
No.
the point in our relationship that I was going to say that.
Yeah.
Because
You
I'm a
can say
nine
it now,
ender.
but you better pack a lunch. No.
Yeah. So I mean, I think there have just been so many people along the way that have asked those questions and that have not allowed me, and I mean graciously, right?
Yeah.
Graciously have not allowed me to go to be unaware, right?
Yeah.
That have not missed an opportunity to kindly, gently hold up a mirror, right?
Yeah. Because in that question, right? What, because what I knew about you when you would call, even early in our relationship, when you would call, it wasn't just to triangle or
Yeah,
whine and complain about the situation. You genuinely were interested in showing up differently. And and I know the first time I asked the question, there was resistance. Uh,
definitely.
and you kept asking the question.
Yeah,
You would call in a situation, it would be a different situation, but the same kind of thing. And it still like that question, when people ask me, it forces me to go inside.
yeah, yeah,
Now I have to look at myself
yeah,
and I look at how it is that I'm behaving. And
yeah,
if I won't look inside, then I will never go
yeah,
to places that I don't want to go,
yeah,
nor will I go to a place I've never been. So I
yeah,
have to look internally, do a little inner ecology, as they say, and root around. But it comes from having the mirror held up because the answer is actually in me, right?
yeah, yeah. Why do I have to go inside? I know like you just said, we'll never go to places where we don't want to go. Well, who cares? I don't want to go to places I don't want to
Well,
go anyway.
because well, okay, and that's fair. I mean, that's fine. And here's the thing: we have a world full of people who are doing that. And
Yeah,
what I want to ask is, are you okay with that?
yeah, yeah,
Because you can. We can. I
yeah,
did it for a long time.
yeah,
But that's where, again, where we get to a place where that's no longer acceptable because I see it now,
yeah,
where I'm aware
yeah,
that this is how I behave. And when as I discover why, okay, now I get to keep discovering.
yeah, yeah,
It's that we just didn't, it's not just this destination that I arrive at and that's it and I'm done, I'm out.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's a continual journey towards contentment, fulfillment, and wholeness. And yeah, I don't know. I,
Well, I mean, I think I mean, I baited you a little bit there. The why go inside? I mean, where else can I go?
yeah,
Right?
right.
I can't go inside anybody else. I can't control anybody else. I can't
No,
pull any other levers in my life other
no,
than
right.
how I'm showing up,
Yeah,
how I'm growing,
yeah.
how I'm becoming more aware. Yeah.
Your boss, your parents, your spouse, they may want you to change. They may want you to behave differently, and they probably have told you so. And until you look you root around a little bit and you start to understand, oh, this is what I do. This is why I do what I do when I do what I do. And here's how I would prefer to show up. Until you do that, you're just gonna keep doing it
Yeah. Yeah.
and be increasingly frustrated and in a space of overwhelm. And I can't get back to the top of the circle where I feel safe. It just, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Um, I think it's really good. Can I say one more thing about
Mhm.
how I've held up a mirror?
Yeah, please.
Um, so I mean, I think I just want to illustrate again, like this keeps going. Just over Christmas, I had some really, really wonderful conversations with my family of origin,
Hmm.
about their families of origin. Uh,
Ah,
and honestly, that was so
yes.
helpful.
Yep.
So then that was at Christmas. Then today, in sharing some of this with a trusted person, that trusted person asked me the right question that helped me connect some things that had never been connected before.
Isn't that amazing?
It's amazing, Chris. It's
Hmm.
just so amazing. Yeah.
Thanks for saying that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and quite honestly, like that you are in the deep end right now.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I would say that doing family of origin work is the deep end of the pool,
Hmm.
and and really where the transformation will begin to
Yeah.
s-
Yeah.
uh, at least get a little more firm. It's not going to cement itself, but
Yeah.
uh, yeah, way to go.
I
I,
mean,
I mean, I just want to pat you on the back because the that those are places and spaces and conversations that are often uncomfortable.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
and my experience has been when I was willing to ask, like, tell me about your childhood. And what would you say about this experience and blah blah blah. When I started to like ask and genuinely be concerned,
Yeah.
be curious,
Yeah.
it it,
Yeah.
it has changed the way I relate.
Yeah. Yeah. 1,000,000%. Yep.
Yeah.
Do you want to say anything else? How else have you held up a mirror? How else has someone else held up a mirror? Do you want to say anything? I mean, you did talk about your wise guides, but I mean, do you want to say
Yeah.
anything else?
I don't think I have anything else like in the moment that
Yeah.
would be
Yeah.
super helpful. Yeah.
Um, Here's the turn I want to make.
Yeah.
And I've told you this story before. I was helping someone navigate these waters, a couple years ago, navigate these sort of self-discovery waters.
Yeah.
Um, and th this person said to me, she said, you know, this process feels a lot like that old-fashioned can of worms toy. The
Oh,
one that when you unscrew the top, it has this spring and all these like worms come shooting out.
yes.
And she said it feels scary because
Mm.
I'm gonna start digging and I'm gonna start mining and I'm gonna start looking and holding up a mirror. Number one, what the heck am I gonna find?
Yeah.
Number two, what if I want to stop and
Hmm.
I can't? Right?
Yeah.
The idea like that worm toy, like once those things start coming out, like it is, you can't
Yeah.
stop middle and put that
Nope.
lid back on.
Nope.
Um, and I that question and that analogy has really stuck with me. Um, I think I think that's where I think we would say a couple things. Number one, like there is a caution, you know, to enter this intentionally,
Yes.
to do so um, carefully. That that certainly self-discovery and holding up a mirror like this, it can be really hard. Um, and it can be overwhelming. I've had times where it's overwhelming for me, and I've had to like pause and take a step
Take a
back, right?
break.
Take a
Yeah, take a
break.
break.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah. I, Keep going on the it's okay. Can you riff a little bit on it's
Well,
okay?
I'm not sure, but this is what I want to say about that. As we begin to discover things about ourselves or things that we experiences that we had, or that we start to understand why we do what we do, the power of I'm bad
Yeah.
is pretty strong, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
it 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 creates fear and anxiety in us, to the point where, oh, all these worms are shooting out of this can.
Yeah.
What am
Yeah.
I what am I going to find? Well, then I don't want to look. Well,
Yeah.
no, like if we can get to a place, here's where the turn is really happening. I'm gonna use the phrase like my greatest learning along the way has been the power of self-compassion.
Yeah. Come on.
And I did not ever think that I could be compassionate with myself. That's a
Mm.
ridiculous notion. Why in the world? You should do this. You should not do that. You should be able to do blah blah. Blah. And
Yeah.
and and that's how I lived. You used the phrase earlier in the day around the idea of anger, and like I didn't think it was okay to be angry. I was angry all the time, but I didn't think it was okay to be angry.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I when I finally got there, I say, oh, like I'm angry now. This part of me is rearing its ugly head, and it's called anger, and he's trying to protect me because all of a sudden I'm feeling like I'm out of control. That
Yeah.
exiled part is, and what's actually true is no, like anger is an okay emotion. What do you
Yeah.
do when you're angry? So be compassionate with yourself. It's okay.
Yeah.
And when as we discover things about ourselves that we did that have us feeling the way we feel, or that were done to us, we can begin to reframe those experiences, and they can be okay. Now,
Yeah.
we say this a lot. There are situations or experiences that we have that do need some real clinical work.
Yeah.
They're,
Yeah.
they may be, they may simply be adaptations to so that we could feel safe, but
Yeah.
they might also be diagnosable situations that we would encourage people to pay attention to. But
Yeah.
um, opening the can of worms is, I don't know. I think I want to say that opening the can of worms is the beginning of the transformational journey.
Yeah.
And uh,
Yeah.
we're going to stay stuck and stopped if we don't. Right. So I
Yeah.
wouldn't, uh, by nature, I don't want to not do anything out of a place of fear. That's just
Yeah.
truth for me.
Yeah.
Right. But the benefits of having, unscrewed the lid or let the lid pop off far outweigh, for me,
Yeah.
far outweigh the risk. And
Yeah.
it has given me opportunities. That's what I want to say, is given me
Yeah.
opportunities to
Yeah.
exercise self-compassion.
Yeah. Yeah. I think what this person meant and what's under this, what am I going to find, is actually shame. It's actually, what if I find out I'm actually not good enough? What if I find out that what I fear about myself is actually true,
Mhm.
right? And you've mentioned shame a number of times, and I think we would just patently say that that's just not true.
Right.
That it may feel that way, but when the lid comes off the worms, we would say what's in there is not an affirmation of that shame voice.
No, exactly.
Yeah,
100%. I agree
yeah,
completely. That is the power that shame has. And it is
yeah,
you can't go under it or over it or around it. You get to take that shame thing head on. And
yeah,
otherwise, honestly, I just think we keep doing the things we've
yeah,
always done, and we
yeah,
feel the way we've always felt. And if though they're and then we'll just avoid the reflection, to go back
yeah,
all the way to the beginning of the episode, is to
yeah,
say there will be no transformation without reflection, and reflection will like blow the lid off of
yeah,
the can of worms that you
yeah,
have been holding your entire life, and it
yeah,
will be okay.
yeah. Yeah.
presuming that you are able to be compassionate with yourself, and that as you engage the work, when you get to that place where maybe there's a sense of feeling overloaded by it, that you engage with another human being who
Yeah.
has the skills, the capacity, and the capability to be able to ask that question and to, exercise some compassion themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a really good word. I actually feel like that's a pretty great word to end on. Um, I think I just really want to say thanks for that.
Mm.
Self-compassion is something that continues to be a growth opportunity for me.
I
Uh,
love how you said that.
yeah, yeah. Um, I think many of us would probably say we have a great deal of compassion for others, and
Yes,
self-compassion is really hard.
I'm a
Um,
recovering self-deprecator.
yes, yes, for sure.
And
So
that was my way to protect myself so that you couldn't hurt me.
yeah,
Right. But it came from a place of, yeah, needing self-compassion.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Thanks for saying that. I really appreciate that.
Well,
Um, and
thanks for the
I
conversation.
yeah, of
Really
course.
good.
I mean, I think I would be remiss if I didn't explicitly say like these are the values that we hold up at Brimstone
Hmm.
Coaching Group, that because we had not only wise but compassionate guides, that this is
Mm.
a deeply held value uh, for all the work that we do with people.
Yeah. Thanks for saying that too.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
This has been a joy.
Yeah, indeed.
Until next time.